Who are you when the mind becomes quiet? Not who you think you are, not the story you tell about yourself, not the roles you play, not the memories you carry, not the fears you are trying to overcome. Who are you beneath all of that? This is the question that Yoga Sutra 1.3 begins to answer. In the previous sutra, Patanjali defined yoga as yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the movements of the mind. And now in Yoga Sutra 1.3, he tells us what happens when these movements settle. The sutra is Tadā, Draṣṭuḥ, svarūpe'vasthānam. Let us say it slowly. Tadā, Draṣṭuḥ, svarūpe'vasthānam. A simple translation of this. Then the seer rests in its own true nature. Edit. Swami Satchidananda translates this as, then the seer abides in his own nature. Swami Vivekananda, he translates it as, at that time, the seer rests in his own unmodified state. This sutra is brief, but it points towards one of the deepest insights in yoga. You are not merely the contents of your mind. You are also the awareness that knows the mind. And that statement is important. You are also the awareness that knows the mind. The first word is Tadā. Tadā means then. And this word connects Sutra 1.3 directly with Sutra 1.2. When the movements of the mind become still, then the seer rests in its own nature, in its own true nature. This does not necessarily mean that every thought must disappear permanently before we can know ourselves. It means that when the mind is no longer dominating perception, something deeper becomes visible. Imagine a lake again. Imagine a lake again. When the surface is restless, the water reflects distorted shapes. You cannot see clearly into the depth. But when the surface becomes still, the depth is revealed. The depth was not created by stillness, it was always there. The stillness simply allowed it to be seen. In the same way, yoga does not create your true nature. Yoga does not create your true nature. It reveals what was present beneath the movements of thought, of memory, of emotion, of identification. The next word is drastu. Drastu comes from a root meaning to see, and it may be translated as the seer, the witness, or the one who knows the experience. This is not the physical eye. The eyes can see color and form. The ears can hear sound. The mind can interpret what is being seen, what is being heard, what is being felt. But yoga, it asks, what is aware that seeing is happening? What knows that a thought has appeared? What recognizes that an emotion is present? And what notices that the body is tired? What is aware of memory, of sensation, of fear, of desire? That knowing presence is what Patanjali refers to as the seer. Let us explore this very simply. You may notice a thought. Perhaps the thought is, I am tired. If you can notice the thought, then the thought is something known. You may feel sadness. If you can recognize sadness is present, then sadness is also something known. You may remember something that happened many years ago. The memory appears, and you are aware that this memory has appeared. Thoughts change, emotions change, memories come and go, the body changes, roles change, circumstances change. But throughout all these changing experiences, there's a capacity to know that experience is happening. Yoga, it turns our attention toward that knowing presence. The seer, the witness, is not indifference because sometimes the idea of the witness can be misunderstood. People may imagine that becoming the witness, living my life as being a witness, means becoming emotionally distant, becoming detached in a cold way, being uncaring or passive. But witnessing does not mean refusing to participate in life. It means participating without being completely lost in every experience. For example, imagine that anger arises. Without awareness, anger immediately becomes, I'm angry. And then it moves to, I'm right, they are wrong. And then the emotion that we are feeling, it shapes our words, our tone, and our behavior. But when witnessing is present, something else becomes possible. We may recognize anger is rising. Anger is rising. I can feel heat in the body. My thoughts are becoming defensive. I want to react. The anger is not denied, the anger is felt. But awareness is no longer completely swallowed by the anger. The witness, the witness has created space. And within that space, there becomes that greater possibility of choice. The next word is svarūpe. And this is made up of two words. The first part, or rather, this is made up of two parts. The first part is swa. Swa means one soul. And then there's rupa. Rupa means form or nature or essential character. So swarupe or swarupa may therefore be understood as one's own true nature. This does not refer to personality. It does not mean that my true nature is that I'm introverted, or my true nature is that I'm ambitious, or my true nature is that I'm emotional. These are tendencies within the personality, but personality itself is still part of a changing field. Swarupa. Patanjali is pointing to something deeper. The true nature of the seer is pure awareness, the capacity to know, the silent presence in which thoughts, feelings, sensations, and experiences arise. My favorite example, imagine a cinema screen or your television screen, and many images appear on it. A battle, a celebration, a storm, a fire, a peaceful landscape, and these images are changing constantly. But the screen itself, it's not burned by the fire in the film. It's not made wet by the rain. It does not become violent during the battle. The screen, it simply allows every image to appear without becoming the image. Awareness is like that screen. Experiences arise within it. But awareness itself is much more deeper than any single experience. The final word, Avasthānam. Avasthānam can mean abiding or resting or remaining or being established. Avasthānam. This word is important. This word is, in fact, very important because the seer, the witness, does not need to become something new. The seer rests in what it already is. There's no need to manufacture awareness. There's no need to improve awareness. Awareness is already present. The practice is to recognize it. And this is very different from the way we usually approach self development. Much of modern life tells us become more, achieve more, improve more, fix yourself, disappear for 21 days and come back as a new person, create a better identity. But yoga asks a different question. What if your deepest nature is not something you have to build? What if it is something you have to stop overlooking? What if beneath the constant activity of becoming, there is a presence that is already whole? One of the most practical ways to understand this sutra is to notice the difference between an experience and an identity. The difference between an experience and an identity. There is a difference between saying, I feel anxious, and saying, I am an anxious person. There is a difference between a thought of failure is present and I am a failure. There is a difference between I made a mistake and I am a mistake. The first statement, it recognizes an experience. The second one, it turns the experience into identity. And this is how we become trapped in the movements of the mind. A temporary emotion, it becomes a definition. A past event, it becomes a permanent self image. A fear becomes a description of who we are. Yoga Sutra 1.3. It reminds us that the seer is not reduced to any of these passing forms. You may experience fear, but awareness is not fear. You may experience grief, but awareness is not grief. You may experience confusion, but awareness is not confused. Whatever you're experiencing, the experience is real. No doubt the experience is real, but it is not the whole of you. Let's take a let's take a very relevant example. Imagine you receive criticism. Someone tells you that your work is not good enough. And what happens? Immediately the mind begins to move. You always fail. You're not talented. They do not respect you. You should give up. And within moments, a single piece of feedback has become an identity. The mind has taken one event and created a complete story about the self. But what happens if you pause? You pause. You notice tightness in the chest. You notice disappointment. You notice the thought, I'm not good enough. And then you recognize this thought is present. This thought is present. That small shift, it does not remove the discomfort, but it prevents the thought from becoming absolute truth. You are now aware of the story rather than completely inside it. And that, that is a glimpse of the seer. It is very tempting to imagine that the seer appears only in deep meditation. It's very tempting. But awareness is present in the ordinary moments. It is present when you notice that the mind is distracted. It is present when you recognize that you are reacting. It is present when you say, I've been lost in thought. The very fact that you can recognize distraction means that something in you is aware of the distraction. Something in you is aware of the distraction. You may lose contact with the witnessing presence. But awareness itself has not disappeared. It is similar to the sun that's hidden behind clouds. The clouds may become thick, the sky may become dark, but the sun has not stopped shining. In the same way, awareness can be obscured by thought, by emotion, by identification, but awareness is not destroyed by them. And what does it mean to rest as the seer? What does it mean to rest as the seer? It does not mean repeating I am pure awareness while avoiding real life. It means learning to remain connected to the knowing presence within. You can speak while remaining aware. You can work while remaining aware. You can feel emotion while remaining aware. You can disagree with someone while remaining aware. You can make decisions while remaining aware. The goal is not to escape the human experience, it is to stop being completely unconscious within it. When awareness is present, thought, thought becomes an instrument rather than a master. Emotion becomes information rather than identity. And experience, it becomes something we can meet rather than something that automatically controls us. Here's a simple practice inspired by Sutra 1.3. Several times today, just pause and notice one experience. Maybe a thought, maybe a sensation, maybe an emotion, maybe a sound. Just pause and notice one experience. And silently say to yourself, this is known. This is known. If a thought appears, this thought is known. If tension appears, this tension is known. If sadness appears, this sadness is known. And and then gently ask, what is aware of this experience? What is aware of this experience? And don't try to answer intellectually. Simply pause and notice the quiet presence in which the experience is appearing. You may only glimpse it for the moment, and that is more than enough. The aim is not to create a special state, it is simply to recognize what is already here. So, sometime today, or maybe during this week, you may want to sit with these questions. Which passing experience have I turned into an identity? Maybe fear, maybe failure, maybe rejection, maybe a role, a mistake, a relationship. Which passing experience have I turned into an identity? And who am I when I stop defining myself only through that experience? Who am I when I stop defining myself only through that experience? And the second question, it's not a question to answer quickly, it's a question to live with. Who am I when I stop defining myself only through that experience? Patanjali is not offering us another belief about who we are. He is inviting us. He is simply inviting us to discover the seer directly. Tadā Draṣṭuḥ svarūpe'vasthānam. Then the seer rests in its own true nature. You are not only the thoughts moving through the mind, you are also the awareness that knows these thoughts. You are not only the emotions passing through the body, you are also the presence that recognizes them. As you move through your day, notice one experience and silently say, this is known. And then pause and sense the awareness in which it appears. In the next episode, in the next video, we will explore Yoga Sutra 1.4, where Patanjali explains what happens when we lose sight of the seer and become identified with the movements of the mind. Thank you for listening. Namaste.